Kurt, buddy, Flosstradamus in the house. How you doing?
What up, what up? What up, Willy?
I was thinking about this earlier when we were texting. I was like, man, I just want to be in the same room as you again.
Yeah, man. We always have good energy, and I've been missing you. You need to get out here to LA, or I need to come out to you.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. I mean, it's crazy we're traveling again, first of all.
Yeah.
You've been doing shows, right?
Yeah, I've had a few, and I have some coming up. I'll be doing one in Boston in like 2 weeks, and then I'm going to be down in Florida and North Carolina and kind of doing it again. It's weird. I'm ready, but it also feels like it's like the last few weeks of summer, and I don't want to go back to school. Like I'm just like, I still want a couple more weeks of summer. I just want to chill, but.
Dude, well, I was wondering this because I mean, let's take it back to pre-COVID, right? Pre-pandemic, you had already decided to take the year off. And, that was a pre-COVID decision. And then for everybody else, we were kind of forced to take the year off.
Yeah.
For you, man, I was trying to put myself in your shoes. Like you had already made that decision, right? To take the year off, to just, refocus, work on music, do whatever you wanted to do. And that was your time. Was it weird that it ended up being like everybody's time?
Yes. It was cool. It was cool that everyone wanted to join me, but I planned on being like kind of isolated and away from people for a little bit because I had spent 15 plus years touring and being around people and traveling and stuff. So I really wanted to just check out for a few months at the top of 2020, and everyone else checked out too, which was kind of cool. I wasn't getting FOMO. I might have had some FOMO to go out to maybe do shows. I might have been like enticed to go back on the road. So it was nice to just like definitely be forced out of it and have my friends join me, and we could be in this this crazy isolation together.
Yeah, I mean that's true, man. It's good you could look at it this way. I have a feeling if it were me and I was the one who decided to take the break, I would almost be a little annoyed that like this was supposed to be like this was my break, not all of your break.
True.
How does it feel? So like, forget the pandemic for a second, forget COVID, but just for you going back to shows and going back to whatever, the next phase of Floss out in public is going to be. Like, what was it weird to accept shows again? Like, was there something? Did you feel like you had gotten to a point where you were ready, or did you want something to be in place? Like, what was it like going back to that mindset?
I was expecting it to be more grand than it is. Like I don't know. It feels comfortable. It feels like the past year was just a pause for me, but also a lot of people. Like it was just like time to just take pause and not do things. And now it's like, oh, this feels comfortable again. But some of it is, like I said, it's like the end of summer vacation. Like some of it, I just want to stay home still, which I've found comfort in doing my schedule here. And then there's a little bit of a daunting feeling of like these shows and having to travel and run around the world and do that again. So I'm on the fence. All I know is when I did my first shows in LA, I did a couple of the drive-in shows recently.
Yeah. How was it?
Those were awesome. I have like a little 420 fest I do every year. And so I did it out here. And that was my first time on stage in a year. And that really felt like amazing for like the first 15 to a half hour. I was like adrenaline, everything felt comfortable.
Yeah.
And then there's this pause in the middle of the show that I was like, wait, what am I doing? Like for the past 365, I've been gardening and like chilling and like relaxing. And now I'm like turning up on stage. There's like a little bit of like a self-realization moment there. But
yeah, it's weird. It's weird when you have those out of body moments on stage, right? Where it's like, it's almost like you're watching yourself do a show.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was weird. It was like this just self-aware moment where it just felt different. Like I wasn't used to it. Like I had been doing that for so long. And then now I had like, I started doing it again and it just felt so new and different. And I don't know. Just everything was different about it. So
let's talk about, what happened in the break before we talk about going back to it. I mean, you were gardening a lot, right? there was a lot of changes of shit you had not been doing that all kind of happened in the last year, right?
Yeah, no, it was like you said, I was doing gardening. I was doing a lot of relaxing. I definitely, for the first few months of 2020, I just had my laptop closed and just didn't. I needed to step away from everything musically and Floss and all of that type of stuff. Like I just needed to step away from it for a bit and just get in touch with myself. And that's kind of what I did. I hung up Floss on the shelf, and then it was like a Mr. Rogers moment of like him putting on the sweater or whatever. Like I came home, put on the sweater, and I became Kurt. My name, I became me, and like just had some time for myself, which was cool because for the longest time I was giving up who I was for this Floss thing. So it was kind of the reverse now. So that felt really good just to be home and not have to do anything career related for a little bit. So.
Yeah. You just made me think about the same way that, I've seen you strapping on the Floss vest and the army, the camo boots and all that. Now I'm just thinking about Mr. Rogers showing up for work and the same vibe of him just being like, all right, here we go. Him psyching himself up. One arm in the sweater, other arm in the sweater.
Got to go help these kids, man. We got to teach these kids about life.
Do you have pre-show rituals? I know for a while you were doing like the big, a bunch of vitamins right before the show.
Yeah. just take a bunch of vitamins and get on stage, get a stomach ache on stage. No, I mean, I did. I've done everything before shows, like meditation, take shots, work on my set till the very last second.
Right.
But it's cool that I had a reset this past year. So I'm going to try to approach things a little bit differently and try to keep it more on the meditative type tip, just more on the relaxing, like just calm down and center myself before the show. Yeah. Also, I just want to soak it up a little bit more because I was so go before. I didn't really get to enjoy everything. So my goals moving forward, at least on these shows that are in the next couple of months, is I just want to be present, enjoy that. We had a year of not being able to have that. So I just really want to soak it up when I get back to doing these shows.
Yeah. Could you tell a different vibe from the audience, even at the car shows, like people being a little deprived?
Yeah, man, it's wild. My shows especially, they were those car shows. They weren't these packed, high energy mosh pit shows that I'm used to, but the energy was there because people have been deprived of it. And I did one show in Florida as well, and it feels that way. The energy is even more extreme because we've been just like anything. When the distance makes the heart grow fonder type stuff. I think that's where everyone's been going through. And I even went to a little loft party here in LA and just. It was so much energy there because people have just not had it. So yeah, I'm excited for us as artists moving forward. We can kind of be a little more free with our sets and do different things because the crowd is so eager for whatever we're about to do.
Yeah, man. And I think that's to me, one of the biggest positives, looking in the silver linings of all of the pandemic is that for us, there is that freedom now, right? Because I think when that constant stream of shows and tracks and DJs posting recap videos and your whole feed is that it's easy for everybody, the fans and the artists, to kind of just think that there's a way you should be doing it.
Yeah.
And that if it isn't like that, then there's something wrong with it or you're not doing it right. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that too. I don't know if it's the genre we're in or just the internet or whatever. There's a lot of copycat mentality. That if something works and then we all tend to go toward that. And I think that's the same with our DJ sets too. There's certain songs that work. There's certain things that just are going to be a home run. And I think we, as DJs, we're supposed to curate a night. And I think we choose a lot of that. And so we have that same mindset with social media and things like that. But I think I'm going to try to push away from that as much as possible. It's so easy to get caught in the groove of things, but I'm going to try to do a little bit of the old, but also bring in some new.
Yeah. What are you thinking, man? I mean, not to give anything away, but, coming back, other than your mindset, musically, what do you think about show wise? What are you thinking about? Do you have ideas, shit you're excited about to bring back out?
Yeah. I've been making music that's kind of more like UK influenced. It feels like, I don't know, like the next few songs I have are going to be very like old school, like UK garage influence type stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I've been sound wise, I'm going there, but also DJ set wise, I'm like known for like banger, 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 banger. And I want to have more mellow parts of my set to cool out and vibe out, and then make it so when the bangers come in, it's just like even more intense.
Yeah.
I was something I don't know about when I was touring before, but it just kept getting more and more extreme. And like to the point where breakdowns would be only a few bars and then it'd hit again. And I'm like, I want to like milk things a little bit more. Yeah. And I've been just finding music and even throwing back to older songs that have like longer breakdowns or longer buildups, things to create more tension.
Yeah, man. Well, that makes total sense to me, because I think when like Floss, you and I always talk about like Floss 1.0, 2.0, et cetera. Yeah. And if we're talking about like the beginning of Floss 2.0, like the start of this EDM trap movement, like there wasn't a precedent for any of this, right? So it was easy and exciting to be like, okay, we made this song's hard, but like, what if we made one that was even a little harder than that, you know? And that was like new and fresh and exciting. But I feel the same way, man. Now it's like, I don't know. It's this arms race, and everything is so maximal now that you can even see in the crowds, like at a big EDM show, like when there is a breakdown, people just kind of like look away, stop paying attention. Like it's just people waiting for drops. Like I feel like people have just been programmed for that. And we gotta change that.
Well, I think that hopefully that's what this pandemic did, was kind of put a little bit of a reset in that maximal, that these breakdowns can be there now. And also house music being so popular, like especially like the chiller, deep house, tech house, is I think that it's making it so things can chill and even longer mixes can happen. Like the format of banger, banger, banger is starting to go away, and these long buildups and the drop of a tech house song isn't like in your face. It'll just hit you a little bit, but just kind of ride out. Yeah. And I think that can even blend into like the EDM trap in that side of things. Oh,
100%, man. Before you hopped on here, we were listening to some older Floss stuff. And I put on, which I'd totally forgotten about, I put on the remix you did for Sub Focus.
Oh, yeah.
Today, the Tidal Wave remix. Yeah. And that one, I was just talking about it in the chat, was like, it's so simple and it's like just a few elements. And it's not like hard in the sense of like aggressive, but it hits so hard still, you know, like that's what I think people are forgetting, is that there's other ways to make a big tune. There's other ways to make bangers. Like, I guess it's just going back to the what I was saying earlier, that I think people have gotten programmed to think there's only one way to make it. And that if it's not that, then it's not a banger. It's not, competitive with everyone else's.
I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm just spitballing this right now, but it could just be the a lot of times us as DJs and as fans, they listen to just the drop. So we try to focus on that and create the energy in that drop, make that so maximal. But like that Tidal Wave remix, or like I was saying with Tech House, it's all about the lead up to that drop. Yeah. It's all about creating all that tension, whether there's anti-tension, whatever that is, or some sort of way to build the tension up to that drop moment. Instead of focusing on the drop and making that the craziest thing ever, why not do things before the drop to make that drop feel bigger, even though it isn't that is big. Like, I don't know, there's ways you can like lead that in. And that's kind of what I've been doing, is trying to make the intros and the breakdowns and stuff have anticlimactic moments, so then the drop is a little more climactic.
Yeah, I love that, man. It's like we weren't listening to this on the stream, but I was listening to this earlier today, because I like to, anytime I know I'm talking to someone, I'll go and listen to their shit for a while just to kind of get the vibe before we talk. And I just put on Mosh Pit, and I hadn't actually listened to that full song in a long time, just like start to finish. And it really struck me, man, because that song had such a crazy effect on the EDM world, this crazy ripple effect that I think is still going on today. But when you sit back and listen to it, it's, I think, an example of the stuff we're talking about right now. It doesn't even have a drop.
Right.
And yet, you know, when you play that in the club, I mean, anyone who's been to any of your shows knows what happens. I mean, it's pandemonium.
Yeah.
And all it is a rap song with a great beat with a couple touches of, you know, some Dutch shit, some hard style synths in the background. But it's not even that overt, you know? Like, I don't know, man. When you think back to that, what do you think about? Like, what do you remember about making Mosh Pit?
Yeah. Well, that whole studio session was so wild. And that was early EDM trap. And we wanted to get more rappers on our songs. And so we went to Atlanta and set up studio sessions and with Travis Porter, and one of them was with Casino. Casino had a song called like Diamonds Dripping Wet at the time. That was just like this ridiculous song. I was like, can we get he has really good energy. I was like, can we get him in the studio? And he showed up. And we ended up showing him like what happens at our shows. He didn't even know about EDM, trap, or anything. We had to like show him videos and like show him what the mosh pits were. And he was like, I might have even said this before to you, but he called it a marsh pit. He didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And we showed him what that was, and he just got super hyped. He was super amped. And when we were in the studio, he brought his energy up to what he saw and what this EDM trap world was. And we kept encouraging him, and the vibe was so good that like he just kept turning up, that energy was like captivated on that record. But like you said, the beat is just like it is just a beat. It isn't really like an EDM like build up drop. There's a little bit of a build up and there's a little bit of a drop, but it doesn't have like a crazy wild synth lead drop. Like he's rapping over the drop, which is kind of crazy. Like, and that is another thing I want to start doing too. I want to bring back that old crunk energy. Go ahead though.
Yeah. The old crunk energy for sure. We got to talk about Lil Jon in a second.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say, even the idea, you just got me thinking now, you know, we were talking about how there's sort of this, once a scene starts, it's like building on top of each other and everything's getting crazier. And sometimes it gets to be too much. And back when Mosh Pit came out, I mean, just the idea of calling for a mosh pit at your shows was still kind of new as a DJ, right?
Yeah.
Like even that idea, which now it's like, if there's not a mosh pit, I think a lot of DJs are like, oh, I didn't do a good job, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah, I know there were people, I remember that people were like, why are people moshing at EDM shows? Or why are they moshing at a DJ set? But I don't know.
Who got mad at me? Not mad at me, but who got mad when I was talking to him about that was Cedric Gervais. He was just like, he was hilarious when he was on this podcast, but he was just like, he was very opinionated and was talking about how like he did not understand what was happening with like rap coming into dance music. And he was just, I kind of loved him for it because he was just very much like, no, I don't like this. This is bad. And he's like, mosh pit, no. It's kind of amazing.
It's funny because we all have our own perspectives of DJ culture and dance music, and especially us as American DJs, we have a different take on it than like the European dudes. The European dudes, it's like a totally different energy. So I can see for him, it probably feels so foreign. And a lot of times when people have something new coming into their worlds, they want to hold on to what they know and can't accept new things. So I'm sure he was just like, no, this is too intense.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's that pressure too. And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying anything about him at all. I got a lot of love for him, but I think there's a thing as any artist, forget DJs, as any artist, when there's like a new wave that's happening that you don't necessarily relate to, that you feel like, oh, am I going to have to do this now? Is what I'm doing not cool anymore? You know, like how do I deal with changing times? I mean, that's the eternal artist question.
Yeah, especially the DJ question for sure.
And
it's so funny you said that because that's what I remember when dubstep, like the Skrillex bro steps kind of stuff came along. It sounded so foreign to me. It sounded like Tyrannosaurus, like dinosaurs and robots and like it was so intense. And this was like Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites or whatever. Yeah. At the time was like so new. I was like, I don't understand this. And it like, I had that mentality, but it's so funny. I look at that song in retrospect. I listen to that song now, and it sounds soft compared to where things are now.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, at the time it was so foreign to me that I didn't know how to accept it. But
yeah. And sometimes it's just time. Sometimes it's seeing it in the right context. Like there have definitely been songs. I mean, all of us, we get sent songs from people all the time, or, someone's like, hey, check out this new artist, blah, blah. And I tend to be fairly judgmental, like on a first listen. And there's been so many times where I've been like, nope, not for me. Nope, this sucks. And then I'll see somebody perform, or I'll hear a song in a club, and it just completely changes the way my brain is wired. And I don't know, that to me is part of the beauty of what we do, like specifically DJing and all that, is that there's a live element, something that you create with the people in front of you, the people in the room at the same time. That I don't know. I guess probably all musicians feel that way, but there's something about DJing where you play the right song at the right time. You can create this energy. I don't even know what it is.
No, I understand. I totally know what you mean. And this past year was so hard because we didn't have that. We didn't have these, like the club or the festival to show us what these tracks are. We make this music to display at a club or like a festival. And since that wasn't really there, you couldn't get the feedback as an artist creating music, as well as an artist or a DJ trying to like discover new music. It was this weird, like kind of pause to everything that I'm excited to see what gets birthed out of this. Are we going to start back where we left off at the end of 2019? Is it going to be tech house coming out, or is it people going to turn up again with some like heavier tracks? I don't know. But as these festivals and clubs start opening up, I'm excited to see what comes out of this. What is the next wave? Because now we're getting back to that.
I just hope people take risks, man. I hope people realize after this that you can, because I think, the live streams and all the stuff that happened over the pandemic, I think maybe taught people that, oh yeah, you can step out of the box and there is an audience for it and all that. But then I'm sure you see this as much as I do. The systems that are in place and the gatekeepers of the industry are very much, in my opinion, trying to sort of just be like, back to normal, guys. Like, let's just run the playbook. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's what happens in the industry side of our industry. It is like people stick by the playbook, or what is like, it's funny. It's not encouraging people to push things forward, but when someone pushes it forward, then the industry was like, oh, we got to do this now. We got to do this now. And it's like, why not encourage people to push it forward? Because then those things will birth all of this new genres, new ideas. But it's something about the management side or whatever of this industry that just wants to keep it by the book, and they're afraid to take risk. But the artists are the ones that are willing to take the risk. So
sometimes.
True.
I mean, I think, from the management side and the business side, of course, they're just trying to keep the money going, which is good. I mean, that's like what we need them for. And, it's a good kind of relationship, the artist manager business relationship. It enables all of us to do what we do. But I don't know, man. I really hope it changes. I mean, for you, like, let's talk about shows in general, not the music side, but the presentation of it. Because I feel like Floss has always been forward thinking about the way you put on shows and the way it looks and the way it feels. It's always just different. And I can go all the way back to the Chicago days when you guys were throwing shows in small venues with what I assume were shoestring budgets and making a lot of the stage and the set yourself with some of your friends, all the way up until, like the biggest Floss shows where it's, you built this like, the car stage? What did you call that stage?
Yeah, I mean, that was the bunker 1.0. We put this car on stage and had this like fallout shelter that we built. And then the 2.0
multi-levels. Oh man.
Yeah. But then we built a huge multi-level thing that had like a t-shirt cannon on it and spotlights.
I love the t-shirt cannon. It's so good.
but to that was the thing. It was always trying to do something that EDM wasn't doing. So when we first came out doing the trap stuff, EDM was all like, there's a screen behind you that's displaying your visuals. So we like turn off the screen, just let's do strobe lights and black lights, keep it simple. And like that, because it was the opposite of what everyone else was doing, felt different. Like as soon as we went on stage, the screen shuts off, it's dark, it's like gloomy, and there's just strobe lights. And then same thing, as we got bigger, we started to like do similar things, but like bring physical props on stage. A lot of EDM people weren't taking the risk to bring physical props out on stage. Put a car on stage. We put a car on stage. Like Joyride does that now, but like at the time, people are like, "What? Why is there this car on stage? And why is there this bunker on stage?" We really wanted to do that. So,
have you ever talked to Joyride about that? I feel like you two are kind of the only people who can talk about the experience of having to put a car on stage and what a headache that must be.
I should talk to him about that. I haven't though. I want to though. I want to see what it is.
Yeah, man. Well, he's another one who you can just tell. Like I think of him and you not as the same thing, but in the same kind of area where he is just clearly so far on his own wave. And he's doing things exactly how he wants to do it. And I don't know, he's someone who I find very inspiring because he's clearly just making the music he wants to make. He's putting on the shows he wants to do. He's clearly like the things he puts out there, cars and all that. You can tell he like likes cars. It's like a passion.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's cool that he does. He like puts his own identity into his brand and into his art. And I guess taking it back to that, like putting cars on stage and things like that, like I think it'll be a little while till we're doing that again. Like where we're doing putting cars, where we're like having big production at shows.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everything took a hit right now. Like all industries took a hit financially. Like doing shows again, the budget, I mean, these shows that I'm about to do, the budgets are a lot lower. We were able to put cars on stage and things like that when the budgets were higher, when we were able to bring out a crew and things like that. But everything is starting back up. And I think the whole world is starting back up. And it's like this, we're all trying to figure ourselves out. We had a year of introspection on ourselves. We had a year of introspection on our communities and our society. There's so much introspection that has happened in this past year that now we're all getting, the floodgates are open again to come back into the world. And some of us want to grasp on what it felt like in 2019, but we also have grown so much in 2020. So it's like, I'm excited just to see where everything is. But as of right now, we're all just trying to figure it out. And that's what I'm trying to do. Doing these shows is more of a discovery period than like let's come back and do something next level and all this. I'm like, where am I as Kurt? Where am I as Floss? Where is the industry? How does this feel? And I'm just trying all that out. I'm excited to play again, but I'm just like also excited to discover like what is next for everything.
Dude, that's the beautiful part of it, man. You can go in front of a crowd and figure it out together. Like that's so much more exciting to me than having a fully prepared show where you just execute it and then you get to the end of it and you know exactly what's going to happen. It's not knowing what's going to happen that makes it so exciting. And to take it back to something you said a second ago, where one thing that I think Floss has always done and that makes you stand out is looking at what everyone is doing and not doing that, going away from that, right? Yeah. And if everyone is, festivals are back and like these big stages are back, we're seeing all these visuals. And to me, that's exciting to be like, okay, let's not do that. Like if everything's trying to get big again, well, let's actually try to get smaller and let's see what's fun and what's exciting and new there. Because that's a new idea. I haven't heard of a DJ trying to like scale it down and make it interesting,
Yeah, that's a good call, man. And this is, I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but I'll even say for a while, I wasn't inspired by the music industry and festivals and things like that. And the thing that got me super inspired recently was the whole NFT space. And I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but I definitely got super immersed into that and was doing the things I did in the show DJ world in this space. Right. I didn't have shows. So I was like, well, how can I curate an event with this whole NFT space? And that's kind of what I started to do, is explore that, create an experience for people in this space, just like I did where I created an experience in the DJ space, but I can now do it in this NFT space. And it felt like early SoundCloud days. It felt like early trap days where you could just do anything. There was no rules. It was just try something, throw paint at the wall, see if it sticks.
Yep.
And that's where I got my inspiration recently, is to do that. So.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about, because I I have so far not on purpose, but I've avoided talking about NFTs. I have not mentioned it on this podcast, but that's really just because it's something I was not super involved in, so I didn't feel like I have a lot to offer. But I talked to you about it privately a lot, and I know it was a big source of inspiration for you. And I mean, part of that was also finding a new community, right? Because I know you were talking about Clubhouse and you really found like a thriving thing there. Is that still going on, by the way?
It definitely has dwindled a little bit. Now that the world is coming back, that world has gotten a lot, I don't know, it's just like started to dwindle down a little bit. The rooms used to be big rooms, but now they're smaller rooms. And yeah, it's still happening, but it's like even my frequency on there, I'm not on it as much as I used to be too.
Yeah. Well, how did let's talk about the NFT thing. Let's jump into it. I mean, for you, how did it start for you? What was the first thing that kind of attracted you to that space? Because I know you're always sort of looking for what's new, what's fresh, like culturally, seeing if it's something that, that can vibe with like what you're doing as an artist. Like, I think that's something you've always been interested in. How did it come across your world?
Yeah, I'm always into tech and like, that's almost like, you know this personally, Willy, but I'm like always showing you plugins and things like that, because the tech side of music and the tech side of anything has always attracted me. So like anything new, a new tool, a new thing has always attracted me. And for the NFT space, that's what it was. It was a way to use technology and art to kind of, I could merge technology and art like I do in music, but in this new space. It was like, so that was attractive. And also, like I said a minute ago, there was just no rules there. There were no walls up. And I feel like in EDM and in music, the walls had been up for so long that this is what you should do. This works. All the things we've been talking about in this podcast, things work this way. But in the NFT space, there was like, we don't know. Like, you can do whatever you want. And so for me, I was like, let's fuck around and do stuff. So I did. I was like, I wanted to create an experience with this. So like the first NFT I released had baked in the audio, if you visualize the audio, you would see a seed phrase to a crypto wallet. So if you analyze the audio of this NFT, you could see the seed phrase, and the first person that put that seed phrase into their MetaMask or their wallet, they could get a free NFT. And then people started using that as almost like a geocache Dropbox, and people put Ethereum in there. People put like other NFTs in there.
Oh, wow.
It became an exchange. This hidden wallet was like this exchange. And then I also made the world's first smokable NFT, where I like put some Web3 technology on these vapes I had made. I like coded this technology on there. So when you plug in the vape into your computer, it gives you another NFT.
Yeah.
So like, I was just trying to look at that whole space in a way that was just like, how can I do what I've done before in this space to create an experience? Like, that was the main thing. Like, what I do as a DJ is I create an experience for fans, for people. And I wanted to do that in this space. And that's what I did. And yeah.
Dude, I don't think it. Well, okay. I had two things. First of all, before we get off the NFT thing, I mean, how did people react to it? Because those ideas are awesome, and I have to imagine that community was stoked on it. Like, is it something you think you're going to keep up? Like, this is me asking you as a complete ignorant person, because I really am out of the NFT world. Like, does it have legs? Like, what do you see for yourself, like the future of your involvement with it?
Yeah, I think either blockchain technology or NFTs as well. Like, I think they'll always be a part of what I'm doing with Floss, at least in the next few years. And whether that is just how I've been looking at it, it's almost like a press piece in a way. So like, if I have a song coming out, I definitely want to do an NFT experience with the song. Or if I have a show, maybe there's an NFT experience that can happen with that. But that's the way I look at it, as an extension. I don't look at it as like I'm shifting over there and that's who I am now. I'm an NFT artist. Like, I think it's going to be just like an added layer onto what I do as Floss. So I could use blockchain technology for ticket sales or merch sales.
Yeah.
Or I could use the NFT stuff to maybe sell like a visual piece that comes with like the audio piece that I'm releasing on Spotify.
Right.
Just like trying to bridge both of those worlds is kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, I love that, man. And I think that's part of Flosstradamus that I don't think gets talked about enough. I don't think enough people realize the tech side of it and your involvement with all of that, like dating way, 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 way back. Like not only the fact that, you know, you're engineering everything, you're mixing and mastering everything. And I know just because I've known you for so long, how in depth you go with that and how much time you spend on all of that. But even, you know what I just thought of while you were talking about what you did with the NFTs was, do you remember? I'm sure you do. I don't remember what festival this was, but when you made that like mobile Wi-Fi network during the show that would like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, it was like a Wi-Fi network in somebody's backpack who was walking around in the crowd that if you were in proximity to it would basically like take over your phone.
Yeah, that's what it was. We debuted it at South by Southwest, and the idea was, I think we did it in 2011, South by Southwest, and I've been going to South by Southwest since like 2007 maybe, and there's never cell phone signal there. There was never Wi-Fi. It's always people going to hotels or trying to find a way to get signal to figure out where things were. And so I was like, well, let's make these Wi-Fi lunch boxes. Actually, we like built these like little lunch boxes, and we put them throughout South by Southwest. And so if someone went to their phone and like went to the Linksys network or whatever it was, the Netgear network or Apple, whatever, it would automatically take over their phone. And they thought they were getting free Wi-Fi, but if they went to facebook.com, it would change Facebook to the Floss page.
Right.
And you could download exclusive music from us. You could see where we were playing throughout South by Southwest. You could get backgrounds for your phone. And it was just a way to take over someone else's phone, but create an experience on their phone. And like, we've even like used it at festivals every now and again to create little Easter eggs and like just a little added elements to the show. Like you can have experience through your phone.
I love that, man. And I think there's so much possibility for that in the future too. Shit like that, you know?
And I think that that's where the NFT stuff can kind of bridge into it, is like people can have at a show. Like if you go to a Willy Joy performance and you're 15 feet from the stage for 5 minutes, then maybe your phone will like automatically download the new Willy Joy song. Or if they go to a Willy Joy set and then they go to a Flosstradamus set, they gain 2 points to like, you know, to go buy a piece of merch or something like that. You spent X time. Like, I think there's really cool stuff we can do with that for our fans.
You're making me think like multi-level, because if you teamed up with some other artists to make it almost like an augmented reality thing, it could be like, you know, go to the Floss show and then go to my show. And if you go to both, then you get, you know, like the remix I did for you sent to your phone. You know, it's like where it's a bunch of artists collaborating in like a different way than just music. I don't know.
No, that's so awesome. And those NFTs can be resold then too. Let's say it was an NFT. Let's say they saw Willy Joy in Washington, D.C., and then they went and saw Floss in Vegas. But then they have a one Willy Joy point, one Floss point. That gives them the Willy Joy Floss remix. If they go to 2 different places, then they can finally unlock it, almost like some Pokemon type stuff. But then they get that NFT, which is dope. But let's say they don't want it. They can also resell it and someone else can buy that. Then you and I both can get a split of that NFT, which is cool. As it gets resold, we can actually, you know, have a little bit of royalties on these things. And I think there's just so much cool stuff with this. It's still really archaic and clunky and it's awkward right now, but I feel like if we start early adopting it and we start using it as artists, it'll only get better. It'll only get easier for the fans. It'll only get easier for us as artists. When this gets bigger in 5 years, 3 years, whatever, it'll just make this whole thing just be a whole new experience for the fans. And we just need to be early adopters and through this awkward phase right now, I think.
Yeah, I love that, man. Well, and I'm glad, as somebody who's not always an early adopter, I'm glad you're out there doing it, because you know, if I hear it from you, it's an easier sell and it makes me more psyched to think about this kind of shit, you know?
I love it, man. And hopefully it makes other people listening and watching psyched too.
Oh, absolutely, man. I remember when you did the like hostile Wi-Fi takeover thing. I remember because it was Chris Stewart, right, who had the backpack. Shout out to our friend Chris Stewart, who now runs the Grid Life festivals and does amazing events all over the country. But I remember just him like strapping on the backpack. And maybe my memory has kind of changed over time, but my memory of him is being like pretty worried about it. And him just being like, I think this is illegal. I don't know if I should be doing this.
He probably got back cancer from that or something too.
Yeah, he probably did. That was a big ass backpack.
yeah, it was just piping radiation into his back. But
oh man. But talking about another thing you just reminded me of was talking about remixes that we've done for each other. I had this memory pop into my head the other day of when I did the Mosh Pit remix for you. And I remember, you tell me, I don't know if you remember any of this, but from my perspective, I just wanted to talk this moment out because I've been sort of reanalyzing it in the last couple of days. I remember I made this demo and I sent it to you, and it was kind of, people can go listen to what it is. It's a similar concept. Like I used metal guitars and metal drums and like kind of turned it into this different vibe to match the Mosh Pit energy, right? And I sent you this very rough demo. And I remember you called me, and I still remember where I was when I got that call, and you were super stoked. And you were like, hey man, this is cool idea. I'm working with Dylan Francis right now. We're doing this Flosstradamus thing. And like, maybe we could all like work on this together and we could all put it out together. And I more or less like said no to that. and I mean, not in like a rude way, but I think in like an awkward way. I was like, no, man, I have this concept and I want to do it. And looking back, I was like, that's the stupidest shit. One of the stupidest things I've ever done was like not work with my friends to make a cool idea better. Not that I still love the remix, but I thinking about it, I'll finish this story and then you tell me what you remember about it. Thinking back on it, I was like, you know what? I had worked with a bigger artist who I'm not going to name, like in the months up to that. And it didn't really work out in a way I was happy with. And I think like I was just in this weird protective mindset. And so I think I would just automatically, like my brain didn't even let me think about it. And it's so weird thinking back to those moments. So first of all, tell me if that checks out with your memory. And second of all, I was wondering, like, have you had moments like that where you kind of reacted based off of something that had happened in the past in your career, and then you look back on it and wonder what had happened if you made a different choice?
Yeah, I mean, so to all of the above, yes, I do remember that call. But I'm actually glad that you did do it your way in the end. I think you did make the right decision on that. Like maybe if we did touch it, it would have ruined it in its own way too. And like your version was, I really fucked with your version. Like the whole new metal idea was amazing, throwing that in there. And like forever, as you know, I was using that in our set always. I always like played yours in like a little breakdown.
Oh yeah, it always made me happy when you did that.
So much energy. So yeah, I don't like, I think everything happens for a reason. We can get super hippie with it, who knows? But I think you did make the right choice. And then as for like that happening, yeah, that happens a lot. And I don't, it always discourages me. So like I've had things where I've been burned before and it makes me hesitant to make moves in life as well as in my career. Yeah. And like even this NFT space, there's a lot of crazy shit that happened during that is like really put a sour taste in my mouth. And I'm kind of hesitant to go forward on some other NFT stuff because of how sour it was. So it happens a lot. And I think that there's constantly, the wins they always feel good, but the losses and the hurt or whatever, the pain means so much more and it hinders the career so much more. But I need to start focusing on the wins, and maybe same for you too, like just focus on those wins and those can maybe propel you forward. But I have a tendency of getting burnt and I just like, it hinders me. I mean, Floss used to be two people, and then once it became one, there was a little bit of that feeling there too. And so yeah. I just think a lot of that happens over time. It's just how we manage that. But the last thing to touch on your question is there are so many songs, like there's demos that people have sent me, like like big songs that have came out, and I could have been a part of those. And I just was like, at the time I wasn't ready, or I didn't respond to an email in time, or I was going through life shit, and I missed those opportunities. But I still feel like if you're open-minded, if you're ready, other opportunities will come in. So even though you passed up on the Flosstradamus thing, there can be another opportunity that will come to you at some point. So
for sure, Ben. Yeah. And it's not even like, I don't even look back on it in terms of like, I'm not down on myself. It was just like, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
Like that to me is really what it is. It's like, I don't know. And this is something I've been talking about with a lot of people on the podcast lately. And you and I have these conversations all the time privately of like, how do we just not even as artists, but just as people, like just not second guess ourselves so much, be in the moment more, make the fun decision without worrying so much about the past of it. I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like you've been on this Zen quest, like trying to get yourself there in the last few years, and especially this last year. Like, have you figured out anything differently for, just keeping yourself in a good headspace, keeping what you do fun and exciting?
I mean, I'm still on that quest, man. I wish I could say like one thing, but the NFT space was that for me, man. That was like this, like I've said earlier, but I'll say it again. The borders weren't there. The boundaries weren't there. Management didn't have an idea of what NFTs were. So they didn't have the true sense that you should or shouldn't do something. It was all, I could just do whatever I wanted. And that felt amazing. And that's what it felt like when I was first making music and no one even knew who Floss was. I was like, I'm going to do this, this, and this, because it doesn't matter. No one says you're doing it this way or that way. Right. But as you get bigger, as your career goes on, like whatever, like you have all these influences. Fans influence you, management influences you, your own self-doubt influences you. And I'm trying to find ways
right? The past influences you.
Yeah, man. Oh my God. The past definitely does, especially if you have a brand that is something. Your past things you did with that brand carry forward in there. So if I just start making tech house as Floss, people are gonna be like, what? Like, you're the Mosh Pit turn up EDM festival dude and you just do tech house. It has its own weight to it. So the thing that's sad is those are subconscious thoughts while I sit down to create music, or while I sit down to make a set. But I'm trying to use the energy of the unknown right now in 2021 to kind of guide me in my career in a path. So I want to experiment with different sounds, different genres. Like I said earlier, long breakdowns and sets, just do things a little bit different. Yeah. And maybe those will define the new sound of who I am, or at least to a spot that inspires me to like do new things.
Yeah, man. I love that. I mean, I've been trying to just check in with myself when I'm doing creative stuff, especially like say I'm sitting down to make a song or something. And if it's not fun, if I'm kind of slogging through, being like, okay, why isn't this, it's basically two parts. Why is this not fun right now? And what would be a fun thing to do right now? Oh, cool. So it's like trying to make it as simple as possible. And for me, I talked to you a little bit about this, but over the winter, like last December, January, I had maybe like 3 weeks all by myself, just in my place. And I was really looking at it as a time to try to make it like a 1-person writing camp and just like make a whole bunch of shit. And the first couple of days, it was a little rough. And I was trying to figure out, I was like, I'm going to like sound design a bunch of cool sounds and really like make this whole toolkit for myself. And it just wasn't going to plan. And I had one of those moments where I was like, well, what would be fun to do? This is not fun. What would be fun? And what I ended up doing for like most of those weeks was just no laptop speakers, one contact piano, and just like writing a bunch of melodies, throwing like break beats under them, like just fully sampled break beats, and just trying to like build out something as quickly as possible. There wasn't even a song, just like something that was fun to make. That was the only goal. Like not worrying about structure, not worrying about how it's going to work in the club, none of it, but just like shit that I was having fun doing. And I don't know, man, it really rewired my brain to have that like couple weeks where I'm just doing nothing but like a really simple, fun thing over and over.
Dude,
I don't know. I felt different since then when I'm working on music now. I don't know if it's the same for you.
Oh, I love that. It's like you were just like doing a different exercise on how you approach making music. Because before you probably did do that. You sound designed, you did X, Y, and Z, but this way it was like totally new. Just like you and some melodies. I love that. Yeah. And then you can put those melodies in a synth and you can turn that into whatever else you want later. But in the moment, it's all about just the melody and the feeling you have. And as for feeling, I think that that's the one thing that inspires me. Like I'm big on collaboration and there's two things about when you're collabing with somebody, there's an energy there. There's there's something about that moment that there's pressure and you have to like think and make something in that moment. And like, you can vibe with another person. And like, if there's a good energy, then it's just like those little walls that come up when I'm solo and I'm like tweaking a synth or whatever, those aren't there. It's because I don't have any time. There's someone there, they're vibing, I'm vibing. I just want to like keep that going.
Yeah.
And so that's like the main thing with me that like, I'm really looking forward to coming back to real life where it's like getting more studio sessions, working with people, sending ideas back and forth and just vibing again. Like,
yeah, 100%, man. That's another thing. I don't think everyone knows how much that was happening pre-COVID. I mean, just in general, for hundreds of years pre-COVID, but for us, like how much music gets made that nobody hears and how much of our time is spent just working on stuff that doesn't actually come out. And, a lot of that, like you said, can be really creatively inspiring and helpful, even if it doesn't end up being something something anyone hears.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's like the Ableton gym that we hit up sometimes there's a good thing about that, like just making weird loops, weird ideas. I wish there was a way to remember it all. Cause like every once in a while I'll go through my hard drive and I'll like, let me listen to these sessions. I'm like, that was dope. Why didn't I work on that? Or this is trash. I should have threw that out a while ago. But like, there's something about that I wish there might be a tool sometime that we can like have all of our demos, like you can listen to any demo you want, but I forget about things a lot of times. And I work on all these collabs and start projects. You and I have like 5 of them that we've started. And just like, I wish there was a way to come back to those things and work on those in a way. But
yeah. I hear you, man. I mean, there's definitely, I'm sure you could work out some kind of system, even if it's like a hotkey or something that just at the end of Ableton, before you quit out, just hit the hotkey and it'll just like export an MP3 to a Dropbox folder. That you don't even listen to it for a year or more, but then you can kind of just go back and like scroll through a folder, something like that. I mean, let's talk about collaboration for a little bit, because that's something that I think, especially newer artists, don't always understand how that works or sort of what the politics of it are. I mean, for you collaborating with somebody, is there a way you like to do it? Do you like to be, it sounds like in the same physical space as somebody?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you like to build something in the moment? Do you like to have something to bring in? What's your favorite way to do it?
So for me, I love to be with people, like in general, man. I think that's why Clubhouse was such a big thing for me. It really spoke to who I am as a person. And so some artists don't like to collab. Some people are just solo artists and they're amazing that way. But the way I work is I like to have another person to bounce an idea off of, bring an idea to. And a lot of times in studio sessions, I'll bring in like, I'll have a vibe or I'll listen to something or that someone else is working on and be like, we could maybe take these influences, and I'll pull up references. Like I'll be like, there's this Fake Blood song from 2003 that's like has this cool idea. Let's take that and maybe a breakbeat from this like Prodigy song, and like let's try to find ways to bring those together. But that's the way I create. I'm a DJ first. I make DJ sets the majority of the time. I'm always bridging ideas together, genres together. So when I get into the studio, I kind of do the same thing. And I like bridging 2 ideas together of another artist or another group and myself. And we just kind of merge those together and create something new that sounds nostalgic, but sounds futuristic. Is kind of my ideas.
Yeah, man, that's the key. That's the secret. I mean, if you can effectively do that, like something that's nostalgic and fresh and forward thinking. Yeah. I feel like that's my entire life. I've just been trying to make shit like that.
Yeah.
Like, Yeah. I mean, it's funny. How do you feel about like talking about nostalgia and talking about the way people view your older work? This is a question actually somebody asked in my Discord the other day. It was, how do you feel when people compare your current work, your new work to your old work? Is that something you do? Like, how do you feel about, your old stuff versus your new stuff? Does it influence the way you make new music? Do people's reaction influence it? Is it something you think about at all?
Yeah, I mean, all of those do, sadly. like all of the things, all of the past and fans and everything, I listen to too much of that, which is because I care. I care about the fans. The fans are what support me to be able to do what I do. So I do listen to them. And I wanted to find a way to open source even like the creation of my music, like give it to the fans, have them give me feedback. But I just don't know yet how to do that without it like fully hindering me.
Yeah.
But as for what you're saying for the old songs too, like, yeah, the old songs and the old sound does influence the new sound in a way. And I'm trying to go back to that. I think I went away from the Floss sound for a bit and was trying to get a little more, I don't even know, a little more aggressive in a way that wasn't what it sounded like, original trap stuff. And I'm trying to get back to that again. Like, to get back to the original simple EDM trap, not the like more complex stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, all of that stuff influences me. And I don't know, it can be hindering, but it can also be helping. It just depends on how I take it in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, do you have good memories of the old stuff? Like when you hear old songs that you made, does it bring out memories? Does it like transport you back there? Or is it kind of more of a like just, how does this work in the current moment kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it does. And this is a weird thing. I'll even listen to old stuff, like before the EDM trap stuff too. It's so wild. I was playing this song. I did this remix for this band, US Royalty, in like...
Yeah, yes.
I don't even know. 2008, maybe? I don't even know. And I did a remix for them, and it's like this weird, worldy, indie song. And it was before all the EDM trap stuff, but I listened to it the other day and I was like, wow, this is dope. It feels like Major Lazer right now. There's like a guitar thing and it has like a weird little bass line. And
yeah,
that stuff inspires me in a way that is just like, oh, cool. This was a time where I was trying to figure out how to make music. I get to listen to what I messed up in the song, but I also get inspired to where I was at the time and how I was learning. And I didn't have any definition of what I was supposed to do. Yeah. And there was something inspiring about that now I feel like I put myself in this little box when I create music. And at that time, there was, again, back to what we were saying the whole time, it was just so open. There was no box. I could just do whatever I wanted, however I wanted. And so I need to find more ways to get back to that. That's the hard thing right now.
Well, I love what you're saying, though. And I think that's a really good note for any like up and coming producer or anyone who's sort of, has some back catalog, something they posted or something they've made where you look back and you're like, oh, I should have changed this, or, oh, I could have improved this. I think this is an awesome way to look at it. Is like, you can re-inspire yourself with your own work. Like, go back and be like, instead of looking at like what you did wrong the first time, be like, oh, I had a cool idea back then. Like, what if I took this idea and kind of brought it into the now? And with all this knowledge I have now and knowing what I would have done differently, like, what could I do with that?
Yeah. And I think reverse too. There's a lot of times where I get stuck in working on a song and I'm like, oh, I want to change this. I want to change that. I want to change this. And the one I haven't even released yet. But I think part of it is to just put it out there, let people criticize it, whatever they want. And then it's out there. And the things I wanted to change in that one song, I can change in the next one. It's just like, I tend to hold up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get stuck in it. I'm like, oh, no, it needs this, it needs that, it needs this. The mix could be better, whatever. And then it keeps pushing it back and back and back. And it either never comes out or it comes out late. And it's like, just put it out, let the internet do what it does to it. And then listen to it later. And maybe you could have done X, Y, and Z different. So do those in the next song you have. And that's all you got to do.
Yeah, man. Well, it's, talking about nostalgia and talking about memories. I mean, you and I can go down so many roads, and by the way, we have, for anybody watching this, listening to this afterwards, Floss is the all-time MVP of the Back-to-Back podcast. So we've done a bunch of episodes. All you guys need to go and listen to get all the history, all the backstory. But one thing I don't think we've talked about that occurred to me was the Sound Clash EP that I was just re-listening to the other day, and I had sort of forgotten how many big songs were on there and how many. It wasn't like there was one song that really changed. It was like 3 or 4 songs that I feel like all changed the game and all still get played today on a single EP. And that, like, looking back, I was like, man, this was like the peak moment of like what EDM trap was at the time. And I don't know if it was ever the same since then. If we look at that EP, so we're talking about, and we were talking about collaboration, right? So we're talking about Sound Clash with Troy Boy and Prison Riot with GTA, Good Times Ahead, and Little John, both of whom we already mentioned. Talking about, there's so many, man. What do you remember about making that EP? Where were you at? What comes to mind?
It's so weird to me. In hindsight, it was a huge blur because things just kept like going for us. So it was just like the shows were getting bigger, the festivals were getting bigger, the everything was just getting bigger and bigger at the time. And even that EP, we just made it and everything felt right. There was no restriction at the time. Like there was no management, like I've been saying, like restricting us or anything. We just like had all these ideas and made them happen. Like with the song with Lil Jon, he heard what's crazy than a mosh pit, a prison riot. And so he did the vocals on the Prison Riot song for us. And like everything just flowed, like every single thing, even the song with Troy Boy, it was like, we sent it to him, he did his stuff and sent it back to us in like a week. And the song was pretty much done. Like everything was just so fast and organic. And I don't know what it was, if it's the universe, if it's some hippie shit, if it was, who knows what it was, but the energy during that time was just so flowing. There was no restrictions or anything. So when I look back at it, that's all it was. It was almost a blur, but it wasn't a blur in a negative way. It was just like everything was just flowing. There was no restriction to the creative flow, to the energy from the fans, to everything. It just was such a flow at that time.
Yeah, man. And I love the way all those songs came out. Like you did one with Valentino Khan.
Yeah.
Shout out to Valentino, which is still getting played again now.
And the cool thing with that EP too is a lot of those songs, even if it's just the build-ups or the pre-drop or even Middle Fingers Up or Sound Clash, like a lot of those elements from that EP are used in so many people's sets now. Like before a drop, you'll hear like the Sound Clash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's do it, or you'll hear like Middle Fingers Up in the air or the Prison Riot shit. Like
backed up like Prison Riot, yeah, man.
Yeah, they're used. That's the one thing that I'm really inspired on is like a piece of history that I put my stamp on is still being used in a ripple effect throughout other people's sets and genres and stuff. So
I love that, man. I mean, you even had Run the Jewels on there.
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah. I feel like they would. Now obviously they're like in another dimension, but even then, I feel like that was sort of out there.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's so funny you said that too. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, I did a remix for Run the Jewels, and they were like, "Yeah, we'll do vocals on your album." So they did vocals. So yeah, that EP, has Run the Jewels on it. Little John, like. It's a big fucking EP now that I think about it in hindsight. So
yeah, man, so wild. I mean, Lil Jon, we mentioned earlier too, and you were talking about that crunk energy. He's somebody who I think, man, I've been trying to get him on this podcast for the longest time. I got to do it. But, he's someone where you could tell, and, maybe it's because he started off as a DJ too, but you could just tell like he understood instinctively kind of what the energy of this EDM shit was. And you could tell almost immediately he was like, oh, I got something for this.
Yeah. I think he understood it because he's what influenced it too. Like maybe it was a subconscious thing, but like that crunk, dirty South energy is what we were doing in these EDM trap songs. We took the drums and the idea and the melodies of the actual Southern crunk EDM or Southern crunk trap shit, but put it in this EDM space. And to him, whether he thought about it or not or whatever, I just feel like it would probably felt natural to him. It wasn't like this big room house thing. It was like, it felt familiar but new.
Yeah, I think that's right. And, we started off talking about songs like Mosh Pit that have this energy without sort of having like a traditional EDM structure, a build up, drop, that kind of thing. I mean, look at Little John's early shit, even before any of this, like Usher. Yeah. You drop that, the crowd loses their fucking minds. And what is that? It's an 808. It's like a high synth and a clap. That to me, that's like, there's no right formula to do it. And in fact, you can make people go crazy with almost nothing if you're doing it right.
And it's sidetrack, but on topic. But I always liked some of those earlier Mike Will songs that were like Bands That Make Her Dance or whatever, or even like the Rihanna, like Pour It Up one or whatever. Like both of those songs are very subtle and melodic, and you can just play them at your house and just hang out with your girl, whatever. But if you play them at a festival, they have a whole different energy to them too. It's so weird. Like Bands That Make You Dance will get the whole crowd lit, but like it also has like a chill side too. Like that's the type of music I would love to make, is that like thing that works both in the club, but also can be played at home and like have different energies.
Dude, I think I'm glad we got to this point, because I think this is what we've been talking about the whole time without knowing it. I think that's what we need to get back to is that kind of energy. Like I don't know if you're like this. There's certain moments for me that just randomly crystallize in my head and just like, they just pop into my head every once in a while and just like play on a loop. And one of those is when early Floss 2.0 days, you came through. This is when you were still a duo with Josh, and you guys came through DC and you played at U Street Music Hall. RIP to U Street Music Hall, by the way. And I think it was like the first time you were really going on tour as like trap Flosstradamus. And I remember it was just strobe lights, like you were talking about earlier, nothing else. And I remember you dropped Bands Will Make Them Dance. And the reaction the crowd had was pandemonium. It was like the crazier than the wildest EDM drop I've ever seen. And like people screaming every word of it, like it was the most insane heavy metal song. Like that moment, I don't know why. I think about it every once in a while. Like I'm right there. And it's that kind of energy for an unexpected song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we know how to make an expected banger. You know what I mean? But I think the secret sauce and what makes me excited to keep doing it is like, well, how can I do this in a weird way, in a way people aren't going to expect? How can I surprise people?
Yeah, man. And I don't know. I wish I knew that secret formula, man. It's just like, Mike Will is the dude that does that. Like even Black Beatles I mean, that song was, it definitely was probably the little dance thing that they had with that. But like, even that song is just this weird little melody, this dreary little melody, but then it gets so lit when the song drops, when actually the beat comes in. So maybe that's all it is about the antithesis, like the opposite, the energy exchange. I don't know. Like,
yeah. It's something, man. It can be so many things too. I think that's for any producers out there, like don't limit yourself in terms of like, well, if I want to make a song that makes people go crazy, I want to make a banger. Don't limit yourself to be like, well, if it's going to be a banger, it has to have X, Y, and Z elements, you know? Because you never know how it can go. Like Bands Will Make Her Dance. It's so slow. And like the drums, you know, it's not like banging club drums either. Yeah. It's like, it's an awkward song to drop in a set almost.
Yeah.
And yet somehow, I don't know, man.
Oh, it's wild. I don't get it. And that maybe to since we're talking to young producers too, like maybe there's something about it that it's like when you're creating, if you're making a dubstep song, don't reach for the dubstep presets or the synths you use for dubstep. Go find something else. Like you'd use a piano, but like go find a sound that you wouldn't normally use in the genre you're working in and try to fit it in there. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's more about the energy of what you're creating than the actual sounds and like the aggressiveness of the sounds. I always try to do that too when I'm looking for samples or I'm like going through presets and things like that, I go to all these weird preset packs in these areas that I wouldn't normally go to. And if you fit this weird genre in with another genre, something new can be created. And there can be an energy to that too that isn't like you wouldn't expect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love we're talking about this, man, because I think especially for younger artists, it can be like when you start off, you just want to make the music that the people you listen to make, right? You're like, oh, I want to make the Flosstradamus song. I want to make the Skrillex song. Like I want to make shit like this because it makes me feel so strongly. But, I think as you get further into it, you realize that like, well, what if I tried to make the Flosstradamus song? What if I tried to make the Skrillex song, but I changed, this one element of it? Sometimes that's all it is. Just change, swap out the snare drum,
Yeah.
One little thing can flip the whole idea on its head.
No, I fully agree with that too. Yeah. Like get inspired by something and then, put your own twist on it or put another element. Like, let's say you do like Skrillex, but you also might like, I don't even know, you might like, I'm trying to even think who else is
Tame Impala or something,
Yeah, good call. Yeah, like some like indie band or something. Yeah, take the Tame Impala synth sounds that are like dreamier or whatever, but add those to like the Skrillex drums, and you might create like a new subgenre or something. But experimentation is the best. But I feel like we've been saying this whole time, it's easy to stay in this box and stay, okay, well, this is working. This works at a festival. Let me stay with that. But if you can take these other elements and kind of take something that works, but then take something else to like bend what that is and create something new maybe.
Yeah, man. It's just, I don't know. I think anyone listening to us, like, doesn't that sound more fun to like try something new and experiment? I get it that like there's a certain satisfaction to just being like, this shit is hard and I figured it out. And like, okay, now like my music is maybe starting to sound sonically on the level of these people I listen to. But once you get there, man, like have fun with it. That's all I can really say, man. There's so much music that comes out now that's well made, but I'm just like, this doesn't sound like anyone was having fun when they made it,
Yeah, no, I know
what you were following a formula.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, man. It has, I'm like, oh, this is dope, but it's like it's still missing some sort of like little bit of soul or whatever that it needs.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. Well, look, I think while we've been talking, I could talk to you forever, man. I'm glad we're doing this, but I think some people have been submitting questions for us to answer. Shout out to everybody who's been hanging out with us. I saw Four Color Zach was in here, Jubilee was in here.
Oh wow!
Yeah, man. Trip Trop, Whip It Fiend, all you guys, man. I love all of y'all. Let's see what questions we got. Oh, okay. Well, starting off, this one is actually a good question because I think it'll sort of talk to where your head is at now, what you're thinking about. This is Trip Trop from LA. Do you know Trip Trop, Kurt?
I don't.
I'll send you some of their music, man. You'd really be into it. They're making some really good shit right now. It's kind of like, I hope they don't get mad at me if I mischaracterize it, but it's like kind of back to the roots, like jungle terror-y kind of stuff, like old like WeWack and like it's really, really like old GTA stuff. It's really dope. I'll send you some of their stuff. But Trip Trop is asking, does Floss have any plans for starting a record label?
I actually have a record label called High Def Youth. But I need to reinstate it because when I took a break, the record label took a break. So yeah, I'll probably be doing it here soon, bringing it back after the shows and stuff get going. So check it out, High Def Youth. There's like 4 or 5 releases right now. One of those is Four Color Zach in his 2 Cent group.
Yeah, and Zach's still here, by the way. What up, Zach?
What up, Zach? What's popping, bro?
Man, have you watched any of Zach's streams in the last year?
Oh my God, yeah, man.
Dude.
Yeah, he definitely did it right. It was funny when streaming DJ sets came out, a lot of people were just trying to do what they did at shows on stream, and it loses a little bit of energy. Zach took it to a whole new level and created a new lane for that. And I loved it, man. I love watching his show. He wanted me to be on it a few times. Hit me up, Zach. I'll pull up.
Yeah, Zach, I'm gonna text you later too, because I've been thinking about you a lot, man. Zach's show to me, Zach's streams is like, it's kind of actually what you and I have been talking about, Kurt, is like watching it. I'm like, oh, this is why this is fun. This is what I like about what I do. Like, it's just pure like creativity and enjoy. I love it so much, man. Looking at these other questions. Eric, I got to ask this one because Eric is from Minneapolis, which is where I was born and raised. Well, we kind of talked about, he's asking about like, what kind of shows do you want to do after the break? We talked about that a little bit, but he's also asking, so he says, one of the things that drew me to the early trap scene was how fun and cheeky and over the top and kind of ridiculous it was. And he's asking, do you think like the bass music scene has gotten serious, quote unquote, over the last few years? And then he says, does it even make sense to go back to simpler times? I don't know what this means at the end, man, but I think we get the idea of sort of like there, it's kind of what we were talking about. There's like a freedom and a creativity to those early days that maybe is kind of gone. And how do we bring that back?
Yeah. And so to him saying the serious thing, like when I was a teenager, I was like really into drum and bass and jungle. And that same thing happened with that. Like at the time, it was like so dope. They were mixing hip hop with like drum and bass sounds, and everyone was doing all this cool, weird stuff. And then it got really super sound designy, and everyone was like trying to flex how good their drums sounded and how maximal things were. And it got way too serious. It got way too bro. And it kind of like pushed the genre like into the underground, and it pushed away a lot of the soul of what it was. And I saw, to him saying the bass scene got a little serious, I could feel that a little bit. Like, I think it's like, how can we have like the biggest 808s and the craziest sound design and like the weirdest sounding drops? And I think it got to this point where it is pushing some people away. It was when it initially came out, when the bass trap, EDM trap stuff came out, it sounded just like hip hop trap music with just different synths. And then it evolved into more sound design and got a little crazier. So yeah, to that, I think it is a little more serious, or it's a little more like mathematical and heady. But to the second part of his question, I think it can go back to simpler times. I think we can just do that, like just start to create that vibe again, come back to that original energy, and yeah, we can be the ones that define it.
Yeah, there you go. I love that you said that, because I think what's cool about, I think a lot of people listening to us, you'd think we have kind of this negative view of like how it's changed over time. But to me, what's cool about how it changed at the time or over time was that, it got heavier and crazier and wilder. And then it kind of split off, and that's its own thing now. And that's kind of like its own community and its own ideas. And that's just all off of something that started as this simple, fun thing. But that doesn't mean the simple, fun thing has to go away or that it went anywhere at all, right? It's just more ideas, more creativity.
Yeah, man. And the same thing with the bass music. It went in, like you're saying, in so many different genres. It went to the big EDM festival stuff. It made flume, future bass kind of stuff. It made like all of these different things that came from that. I think people chose their own lane with it, but there's a way to kind of bring it all back.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, I did notice I do play that Trip Trop to the Top song in my set. I actually opened my set with it. I don't know why I didn't know them. I'm sorry, y'all. But I opened my set with it when I did the little drive-in here in LA.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Shout out to Trip Trop. No, I mean, come on, man. We don't know the fucking names of our artists of any songs we play. Let's be honest. We know it, but like I'm saying in the moment, I don't know.
No. And also for me, it's like a vibe. I'll go through all of these songs and I'm just like, ooh, this is dope. This is dope. This is dope. And I put it into these things. It's just like at the time, I don't remember. Like when I'm DJing and I'm not like, okay, I'm going to play this artist's song. So.
Yep, of course. Okay, well, I have to, this is ridiculous, but I have to ask this because I think a bunch of people were commenting on it throughout this conversation. So Ryan from London, aka Diane Ravy, aka the most amazing screen name ever, Whippet Fiend 69, asks, where did you get that shirt? And I think a bunch of other people also made comments about that shirt, which is amazing.
I'm a big AliExpress shopper. I love getting bootleg, Louis Vuitton, fake Rolexes, all sorts of bootleg stuff. This is AliExpress. You can find it on AliExpress for like $10. Yes. Big fan of AliExpress. So I don't know what it's called. Maybe search bandana shirt on AliExpress. You'll find it though.
I love it. Oh, this is actually good. Ryan's asking another question, and I wanted to talk about this too. Talking about crowd control, and he says it's the greatest trap song of all time. Talk about collaborating with DJ Slink and any memories of Slink. And I remember that show I was talking about. He was on tour with you guys. Talk about Slink for a minute.
Yeah, so that song, that was dope. We actually made 2 songs. We made that and Test Me, and we actually made an EP. It was us and Slink. And then we did a Nomads tour where it was us and Slink together. And he's like the original Jersey Club dude. Like he was like doing he's from Jersey and he was doing the original Jersey Club sound. And at the time, we had a little synth patch that was like from Nexus. I forgot what it is, but it's in the Nexus hardstyle presets. If you have ReFX Nexus, it's like one of the 3rd presets. If you just hit a note, it goes, it does that lead. Just a preset Nexus. We did that, and I think there was like some trap drums and sent it to him. And then Slink put all of the like the Can You Dig It and all of the things from the Warriors soundtrack on it. He put all the little vocals on there and chopped it up. And yeah, it was dope. That was another little EP that just happened like super quick. Slink's got so much talent, man. He's such a dope ass dude.
He's the best, man. Another person who I've been trying for so long to get on the podcast, man.
Oh, for real, man? You got to get him on, man.
No, I've been trying. I love him so much, man. He's like one of my favorite people. But
to what the dude was saying, that song is like such a dope EDM trap song too. And it was one of these ones that was minimal, like we were saying, but it has like a big sound to it too. And like, I still play it in my sets and it still holds up like back to back with like these crazy new EDM trap songs. It has such energy and it just bangs still.
And you want to talk about those pre-drop vocals that get used all the time. There's another one. Until we had this conversation, I didn't realize that you were responsible for probably like 5 out of the 10 most used EDM drop vocals.
I wish I could own Everybody Fucking Jump, but that's not me. That's Martin Garrix or something. He can take that.
Yeah. But no, 5 out of 10, I think is pretty good. All right, a couple more, and we'll get you out of here. Oh yeah, so Zach Fano from Seattle, shout out, my guy, is asking, in what ways do you geek out on new technology in your production? And how does that inspire you and change the way you work?
In what ways? It's like every time I hit writer's block, I do that. I'll go to different websites and find like new plugins. I definitely look for things that make my creative process easier. So like whether it's a loop browsing software or it's like an AI equalizer or it's even like a new synth, I'm always looking for new stuff because those new sounds, those new ways of thinking inspire me. Like whenever I hit writer's block and I'm doing things the same way, it's hard to get out of. But if I find something new and I play with something new, that almost makes me create something new by playing with something new, if that makes sense. Like it's like this way to just, I'm making music, I'm doing things, but I'm not just like, okay, I'm going to make a song today. It's like, no, I'm going to play around with this new thing. I say, oh shit, I made a new sound, a new song. I found something different. So
yeah,
I use it. That's my biggest thing. It's just getting out of writer's block, always getting a new plugin or a new piece of software, something to explore.
Oh yeah. And you're always sending me new stuff and, saying, oh, this new thing just came out. Like, I feel like that's part of the fun for you, right? Is sort of staying on top of that space and like, what are people doing? What are people experimenting on? I mean, weren't you for a while even working with people like designing plugins?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm always, either if it's advising or even working with companies, like I'm always trying to do that. I'm always trying to have like a say in things, like whether that's early Splice that you put me up on, thank you, Willy, like working with them and some of the things that they've done. And then whether it's a plugin I'll find or a plugin designer too, like I'll go talk to someone. I'm like, yo, I'd love to beta test or help out. And I've given feedback before, even Ableton I've given feedback to. And like, I try to do that for everything. Like I don't really like to be in front of the scenes and be like, I did this, I did that. But like, I'm definitely behind the scenes affecting software and technology in a way that people might even not know that I had a hand in it. So
yeah. No, that's beautiful, man. And those are the kind of things I mean, do you feel that kind of satisfaction? Like, say, we've talked about this in a couple different aspects, like whether it's like working on technology behind the scenes, whether it's these pre-drop vocals that are going to get used for the next decade, all that kind of stuff. Like, is that a good feeling? Like outside of recognition for you as Flosstradamus, as the artist, is it a different kind of satisfaction? How does that feel compared to like people, liking the artist project, liking the music?
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't get as much shine or whatever in a sense. Like, I don't know, like whether it's this NFT stuff and all, I love just doing that. I love being a part of it. I'm always trying to do something different and next level. But whenever I do a lot of that stuff, it almost gets pushed down. It doesn't help the Floss brand as much as like a new song or playing a festival. Those like help push it forward. But a lot of these other technology things and whatever, it doesn't really help propel me in a way.
Yeah.
And like even the NFT stuff, I remember when I started posting on my Instagram, a lot of people were doing hate comments and unfollowing me. And it was so new and forward that they didn't understand it. So they just yo, fuck this dude. He's not even making music. But to me, I was doing something I loved, and I was doing something that inspired me, and I was doing something that pushed culture forward. But whenever I do this stuff, it can almost be a hindrance to me and my career, it's so weird. And even one other thing, Floss is huge for merch. We do tons. I design all the merch for us, and I remember we were doing dad hats. Like before people were rocking dad hats at all. We did like shitty little dad hats that had our logo on it. And someone was like, why do you have those stupid hats? Like no one's going to ever wear those. Dad hats or whatever. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, everybody's doing dad hats, but people were unfollowing us and not supporting this vision that we had. So I don't know. To me, it pains me because it's something I love to do. And I wish that my fans and the people that supported me would see that too. But I don't know. In the hindsight, I still feel good about it because I am doing truly what I feel is right at the time. It isn't reflective in the numbers, I guess.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I feel like there's a tail to it though, like a longer tail, right? Is that maybe people don't understand it in the moment, but I feel like people look back and are able to give that kind of credit, Maybe,
yeah. Maybe like you're saying with those pre-drops and stuff like that, at the moment, those didn't feel right, but people are still using them. So who knows? Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's a early adopter, long-term feeling. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes me think about legacy too, right? Like is legacy, I go back and forth about this. Is legacy something you think about, and is it something you care about?
Oh, no, in a way, but
I'm kind of the same, to be honest.
To me, it isn't. Like, I'm not thinking about legacy and I want to leave on my legacy, but I'm thinking of it in the sense of I was really influenced by Beastie Boys, Fatboy Slim, whatever, Chemical Brothers, things like that. They influenced me in a way to do what I do in Floss, especially Beastie Boys. They had a record label. They were forward thinking on their music videos, their fashion, who they were as people. So they influenced me to be the artist that I am. And I'm able to take what they've taught me in a sense, put it into what I do, mix it up, give that to the next generation. And then I can be talk to up and coming producers dude, Original Don made me want to stop making dubstep. And now I make trap. And now they're this big trap artist. So the legacy for me is living on through those other artists in the sound. It isn't really living on as Floss. Yeah, I had a say in it, but I took the people that influenced me and I influenced the next generation. And that's where my legacy can carry on. I can hear it in the music that people make. And in the influence I put in culture at that time, I guess. Yeah,
man. So, that's like a different kind of satisfaction, I feel like. Because even to take your example of the Beastie Boys, I'm sure when they were, early Beastie Boys days, just doing whatever they wanted to do and doing this stuff that we look back and we're like, oh, that was legendary. At the time, they weren't thinking about, oh, we're going to inspire Kurt to be a DJ 10, 15 years down the road, right? And so you never know how these ripples are going to play out. And that to me is one of the most fun things of looking at a career like yours is there are all these little ripples. You can see different areas, unexpected places. And I think the more we're able to just keep following the fun of it,
Yes.
that's the only way it's going to be successful in the long term.
And that's what Beastie Boys did. They always, at least from the outside, it looked like they were just doing whatever was fun to them and whatever made them laugh and like have a good time. Like, yeah, and that's kind of what I need to get back to personally. Like, I think we're living in an era where there's like instant gratification, instant feedback. The Beastie Boys didn't have social media, so they couldn't put out something and then instantly be critiqued, instantly be looked at. I think for us, we have that. We put something up. Social media can influence us in a way to either hinder us or paralyze us for our next move. So that social media crowd, that instant feedback can be like the death of the happiness and the fun because it's just like an instant critique. And so,
sure. Yeah. When you see different artists go through it all the time, right? I mean, it's so many people we know have gone back and forth with all of this stuff. Even just the other day, I remember Sudden Death, such a good dude. And he was talking about, he's been doing these like void shows where he's like, I don't know if you've seen the videos, he's dressing up, he puts like a animal skull on his face. It's like a whole, like, it's like a theatrical production. There's like a lot of moving pieces. He's like moving, I don't know. I'll send you videos. I can't even describe it, but it's wild and it's very dark, the imagery. And he just posted the other day. He was like, I'm so frustrated with people thinking that me doing this is, you know, satanic and that it's like some cult thing where he's just like, no, these are just like, I'm just having fun with my friends making cool ideas. But you could tell that like that feedback was kind of getting to him. And to something that to me, I saw and I was like, this is hilarious. It's so fun. It's just like, you could tell, again, this is my favorite thing. You can tell how much fun he's having. And then that feedback, I think, stopped some of that fun.
It is, man. It's like the critique is the death of happiness, man. And that's, well, you've been saying this whole time, like, and the same thing with social media too. Like there's things that when you try to do something, it can get killed before it even grows legs. And I think it takes us as people to not be affected by all of that stuff. I think that's what it is. But we're artists and we're so fucking sensitive that like any of these little things will like mess us up. So
yeah, it's a funny thing, man. I don't know. We'll figure this shit out. To wrap it up, I wanted to just do a couple fun memories, wrap it up on a light note. Because one thing I was trying to think about, like, what haven't we talked about on this podcast already? And one thing I don't think we ever talked about this, but it just makes me happy to think about was when you were performing at Coachella and you brought out Soulja Boy.
Yes.
We're just derailing this conversation right now, but it made me, I laughed. It was also so perfect. And I was like, that's the best idea ever to bring out Soulja Boy. Another person who I think encapsulates the spirit of what we've been talking about this whole time, of just like unbelievable energy, but you don't even really know why.
Yep.
What was that like? I mean, did you actually talk to him? Did you spend much time with him at all?
Yeah. And so a couple of things I want to say, and you kind of just talked about it right then, but I've been asked a few times in like interviews or even just people ask me like, what's your spirit animal? And I always just say Soulja Boy because like he is my spirit animal. Like he's always not given a fuck, it seems like. He'll go through all these different phases and adapt with the times and just be like whatever, but it always seems like he doesn't give a fuck. And he's like his own lane. He has his own like video game system. He made his own hoverboards, whatever. And so that was the thing at the time. Coachella was all about bringing out a guest. You bring out a guest, and they asked who we wanted to bring out, and we just were like, "Yo, fuck it, let's bring out Soulja Boy." Like, let's like, and this was like before he was like really popping again, and we brought him out, and we got to meet him. And the funny thing is, he was doing these like vlogs at the time. There's like these weekly Soulja Boy vlogs, and so he put out a vlog, and he was like. And it's him narrating it. So it's it'll be him narrating these vlogs. And it's like, man, I never thought the day I would play Coachella, but then I played Coachella. And then like, he comes out, he films this whole thing, whatever, doesn't mention us once, doesn't even talk about it, tweets it out. He's like, man, it was so dope playing Coachella, blah, 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 Coachella. And he had this video. And like,
he didn't mention you at all?
No, it wasn't about us. He didn't really care about us. It was just him playing Coachella and whatever. It is what it was.
Kind of amazing.
But it was an amazing moment, and I'm so happy we did bring him out. And Yeah, man, he is a very, very unique human being and my spirit animal. I love it.
Did you even talk to him at all in that performance? Was there any like preparation of like, here's how we'll do it?
Yeah. We asked what he wanted to play, and he didn't want to do. He did want to do Turn My Swag On, but he didn't want to do Crank That, I think it was, or something like that. So he was like, no, don't play Crank That. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that. So we did Turn My Swag On, and we did like 2 other songs. And we only just talked to him for a minute, and he just chilled. And I remember he stole my girl at the time, her iPhone charger out of the trailer. That was the last thing I knew. Or him or someone in his crew. We're like, yo, where's the iPhone cable at? And like someone took it. So that's my Soulja Boy story. But yeah, we didn't chat that much. I would love to do a song with him. I still would. I think it'd be dope. Like, he's one of those people like Juicy J, like Waka Flocka, like Lil Jon, who's just like has this energy. Yeah. If you can channel it in that moment, you can get a classic song for him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Waka Flocka too, we've talked about him in the past, but that's another one, right? Where you could just tell instinctively he was like, oh, I know what's happening here. I know what this needs. Yeah. I know what I can bring to this.
Yep. Yeah, man, he definitely fit right into the EDM and EDM trap lane. Like, his energy is just meant for it.
Yeah, man. What was it, just because we're talking about him, there was a period of time, a short period of time that I don't know if everybody remembers when Flosstradamus was still a duo, but Josh had a kid. So you more or less replaced Josh with Waka Flocka for a tour.
Yeah.
And it was just you and Waka touring kind of as Flosstradamus. What was that like?
That was dope. It was so crazy. Yeah. Josh ended up having a kid, so he took a summer off. And so I had to keep doing the show solo. And Waka Flocka came out to replace him. He's got such a crazy energy. And it's funny because Waka Flocka is like this giant human being. But he acts like a 15-year-old. He's like this like giant human being that feels like a little kid, and his energy is there. He would like go out in the crowd after the show and like walk around and like hang out with people. His energy is just like, he loves the people and loves that crowd and loves that. And so, yeah, we toured. I remember I had the most hip hop moment of my career with him. Like we played some show in like Arizona or like Tallahassee or something. And he's like, yo, we're going to the club. And so I went to the strip club with Waka Flocka. I was the only white dude in the strip club, and I was like having like my ultimate hip hop moment. I'm smoking blunts with strippers, and I'm making it rain in the club. I'm like, I made it. I was like the most hip hop moment of my career.
Oh, that's so incredible, man.
And shout out Waka Flocka for real, man. He's an amazing person. Like, he's actually really, really down to earth too, man. Like, yeah, it was just cool to do a whole tour with him. Whenever you tour with someone, you get really close to them, and like him and I became boys that summer. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, that's those kind of moments, man. And the people we meet along the way too. We haven't talked so much about that, but I mean, it's those connections. That's what makes it worthwhile. Like, that's what you look back on and think about in like a significant way, right? Is the experience that you had with the people.
Yeah.
It's not like a crazy accomplishment so much.
No, that's so true, actually. Because like I do remember a lot of those moments with those people on tour. Like, I've toured with Good Times Ahead, and we always like can reminisce about those times. And like I toured with Weethan before, and we took Weethan out on his first tour. We took Slushy and Weethan out during that tour. They're both these young teenage kids. Yeah. But Weethan, the funny thing is, he had those San Pellegrinos with the foil tops, like you peel the foil off of them.
Yeah.
So we go in, we play the show, we come back out to the trailer, and they're stacked up. There's like 6 of them stacked up. He's like, guys, I'm so drunk right now. This is like 17-year-old Weethan. He's like, I'm so drunk right now, guys. I'm like, what were you drinking? And he points to all these Pellegrinos he drank. I'm like, dude, those are just like sugary soda water. Anyway, that's
he was on a sugar high.
Yeah, he was on a sugar high thinking he was drunk.
That's so good.
Those moments are really what make it. Like, the shows, of course, are amazing, and they have their own energy and their own memory. But these funny experiences with our friends are just like, those are what I really cherish. And I'm excited to get back to that when I start touring again. And on some serious, like you and I have some of the best memories, like whether it is us in Chicago or randomly seeing each other in Australia or wherever. Like, we've always had amazing fun times.
Yeah,
and
man.
I hope that we can continue to do that, man.
1000%. We have to, man. I mean, I've told you this before, man, but I'm trying to be more conscious about telling people this. Like, yeah, I really do love you, man. And I don't know if I'd still be here doing this in the same way if it wasn't for us like checking in on each other now and then and having those kind of memories. I don't know if I'd still be doing it in the same way, man, for real. So I got a lot of love for you.
Thank you, brother. That feeling is mutual, bro, for real. For
now, man, I'm gonna keep hanging out with the chat for a little bit. We're gonna listen to some Flosstradamus tunes. And I'm going to let you get out of here, buddy. Thank you for doing this, man.
Willy, thank you, bro. It's good to check in with you. Good to see you.
So good, man. I love you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, for sure.
All right, man. Love you. Bye.